Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Self-Love Synergy. I know it's been a while. It's almost been 2 weeks, and I tell you, what I'm going to talk about today is going to kind of explain why it's been taking me so long to make these videos. First of all, I'm not sure how many videos you've seen of my past, but I have mentioned that I'm going through, a tough, breakup, ending of a relationship. And yeah, I feel it some days, the old me would want to jump into a new relationship, isn't there a saying that in order to get over one person, you have to get under another person? If you know what I mean. Or, it's just, if you get into another relationship, it can get your mind off the past and, be easier to get over it. But I don't think that's the way to heal from it. It just suppresses things down. And that's how I used to handle it. The old version of me, or the immature ego. But the new me has to feel the feelings and, have some breakthroughs and force myself to outgrow the older version of me that would have just suppressed my feelings about it. And not only would I have suppressed my feelings about it, what happened in the past was I would blame myself, all me, as to why the breakups happened. And that wasn't fair on myself, because that just made me develop a lower self-esteem. I didn't have confidence. I was really living in depression for a lot of years. But anyway, let's move on past that, because also what happened was I was on Facebook, and an old schoolmate, high school friend of mine, he wrote something like, "I feel like just giving up." And I was feeling that. Not really, I don't know what he meant by what he was ready to give up. What I meant was feeling like giving up was the idea of doing YouTube, the idea of reinventing myself and trying to, live this new life of living one vibrational energy with all and for all, and having self-love within myself. Because that's been my biggest struggle in life. And it's pretty tough to do it when you really don't know how, and then I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to teach others when I don't really know how? But I do have a good understanding, because like I said, I am having a spiritual awakening. I'm still having it. I'm still learning. I'm learning a lot, even by doing some of these videos. All of these videos, actually, I'm learning something. So it's all good. It's all good. And it'll benefit me in the end. And I think, once I really do start applying this knowledge to myself, over time, I will be a beautiful teacher of it, because I would have experience in it, and and then I'll have lessons to share, and, much more to talk about. Right now, I just have the theory of everything. But so I too was thinking about giving up. And the thoughts that where I think on giving up, they're the old thoughts of me. They're the thoughts of me, that the unhealed part of me that used to blame myself for everything and find fault in myself and over criticize myself and judge myself. When you have that kind of way of thinking about yourself, it's very hard to stay motivated, to stay inspired, to, keep going and keep striving for a better way of life. However, like I said, I am going through a spiritual awakening. And through the spiritual awakening, I've come to understand that God, the real deal, divine love, living one vibrational energy with all and for all, the divine intelligence of that. God, the power of God, the intention of God. When you live that way, I'm sorry for saying the word too much if those of you don't believe in God, but I'm trying to give you what I understand of God, okay? The reality, not the belief, the reality. And that is that we were created to evolve into a life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity for all and with all. A life of divine love. Because in the Bible, it says that we were created in the image of God. And I understand that in church, we're told that we were born a sinner. And there's truth in all of that. But I also think that the second coming of Christ, when Jesus Christ goes back into the Word, the living one vibrational energy of all and for all and with all, and the creator of all, when we understand that frequency is within us and we begin to tap into the divine intelligence that regulates that power and that energy, then we can indeed evolve into a life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity for all and with all. That, again, is our intended. We are intended through our creation to evolve into this. And another way of saying it is that we are to evolve from our lower self, or the self that is within survival mode, freeze or fight or flight or freeze, that's survival mode. Now there's a mode to thrive and your authentic self when you're allowing love in, your ally, and your matured version of your ego, which edges God out. I hope this isn't your first time watching my video, because you're probably like, what is she talking about? Well, I explained it in other videos. The ego stands for edging God out. And to me, God is divine love, living one vibrational energy with all and for all. And it creates all. And so when you edge that out, you're in your ego and you think, oh, there's no such thing as God. There's no such thing as us being all one. There's no such thing as unconditional love. If you don't believe in any of that, then you're in your ego, edging God out, and you're believing yourself to be who your birth certificate says you are, or who your title says you are, or who, an opinion of somebody says you are. That's not the true identity of who you are. That's the ego's identity of who you are. Who you truly are is what you truly are, and what all of us are, which is living one vibrational energy with all and for all. That is really what we are. It's just that when we have certain beliefs and certain thoughts and we think that we're not, and we are who we say we are, and I'm not you, you are not me, then it doesn't appear that we are all living one vibrational energy with all and for all. But again, that is what we are doing. So if we're causing friction within it, then that's on us. If we're causing wars, that's on us, because we don't understand who and what we truly are. Okay, my goodness, I just go on and on. So there is, and like I said, I believe that when they say that we're born into sin, or we're sinners, that means that we're born into becoming conditioned that we are not a frequency, we are not a vibration, we are not a living one vibrational energy. We are, again, our name, what's on our birth certificate, what people call us, what people believe us to be, what we believe of ourselves to be. It's like creating an avatar for ourselves, and we jump into the avatar, and that is who we are. That is who everyone thinks that they are, because we all don't truly understand that we are love. We are divine love. We are living one vibrational energy with all and for all. And we are created from this living one vibrational energy called the I am that I am. At any rate, so we start off and we don't know this. So we are in the survival mode. We only know our family, and we know those who are like us, those within our same country who look like us, who talk like us, who act like us, who believe like us. That's who we know and who we feel comfortable with for the majority of us. And I'm saying, okay, let's go back to ancient times, when the first culture of beings saw another culture of beings that didn't do the same things they did, didn't talk the same language, didn't eat the same foods. They didn't, have the same laws, the same regulations. So a lot of times they went to war with one another in order to say, no, our way is right, and we want you to do like how we do. So we're going to go and we're going to have war with you and make you and force you to do what we want you to do, because we are the civilized ones, or we are the superior ones, or we have science and you don't, or whatever the deal was. It was always one group thinking that it knew more or it knew better than the other group. And then the other group had to get suppressed. And then the one group reigned over. But anyway, this video isn't about that. But as you can see, that's how things could have happened. And when we were in survival mode, there was a lot of war going on. Well, now, we're living in 2025. And I think we are connected to every country around the world, with the World Wide Web, with the internet. I mean, we all understand that we all are human beings, and we all are trying to just survive and to, live within the same planet with each other. And we all want to do good and prosper for our families, for ourselves, make good livings, eat good foods, have good company. We all want pretty much the same thing, to enjoy life with our loved ones. And now we understand too, with this woke generation, they're trying to stomp out prejudice. So they're trying to not want to go to war with another person because they're different. They want to include them and to understand more about them. And then, our diversities can actually grow us and evolve us, and we can discover just so much more things about life when we start to really understand what others understand. And again, this video isn't about that, but this video is about those who feel like giving up, and for those who don't truly understand that we are created to evolve from the lower self, or from the immature ego, the one that edges God out. And we are to evolve into the ally, where you allow love in, or allow divine love in, actually living one vibrational energy with all and for all, including within yourself. So therefore, again, you have to come into more understanding of yourself. You're going to have to look at your whole self, and you're going to have to give forgiveness of yourself. And in order to do this evolving. Now, lots of people have talked about it in the past. However, they didn't really say to evolve the ego. They would say to kill the ego, or outgrow the old version of yourself. And a wonderful gentleman who spoke a lot about it was Napoleon Hill. And I'm going to read you some of what I saw in another video from Napoleon Hill. He says, there's a version of yourself that must mature, or I might have put in that word. So there's a version of yourself that must outgrow from, that you must outgrow from. And it's not in the physical sense, but in the spiritual, mental, and emotional sense. Now that's another thing I mentioned in a video before, that we have 4 bodies. We have the physical body, we have the emotional body, we have the spiritual body, and we have the mental body. And he's saying here that we have to outgrow our mental, spiritual, and emotional bodies. Our physical bodies, we all know that we grow. Our physical bodies grow no matter what, but not everyone matures even though our bodies grow. So as you can see, the body can still grow. However, it takes the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional to do the maturing. So we have to change the way we think, we have to change the way we feel, and we have to change our attitude and our perspective of things. You know, are we in this alone in a rat race, or do we have help from a higher power? If we align with it and flow with it, well, things go a whole lot more smoother and easier, really smarter. You know, don't work harder, work smarter. But Napoleon Hill, he was from the early 1900s. You know, he was around with the wars and everything. And so, and it was still a man's world back then. So his understanding of it is a little bit, a little bit of that tough love kind of thing, kind of harsh, kind of hard. And I'm here with an understanding of divine feminine, which is understanding how to take care of yourself and understanding the right choices to make so that you don't have to really be so hard on yourself when you go to make this transformation, when you go to do this evolving, because you don't have to kill your ego. You don't. You have to understand who you are in your immature state, your childhood, and you have to help heal that child, you know, and help to nourish that child and help that child to think proper thoughts and give you what it is that you need in order to do the evolving. And it can be a beautiful, beautiful process. At first, it can be uncomfortable, you know, because you're used to doing certain things, but you can outgrow that. You can, you know, do something that you love to replace it, and then you start to do what you love and you forget about that old thing. You don't want to do that old thing anymore. So it's not really going to be painful, you know, once you get very comfortable in your new way. But anyway, let me go back to what Napoleon Hill was saying. He says, there's a version of yourself you must outgrow from. Not in the physical sense, but in the spiritual, mental, and emotional sense. A version that's clingy to comfort, hiding from truth, resisting change, and sabotaging your future. If you don't outgrow that version of you, it will kill your potential. But in my case, I would say it would arrest it, like, you know, it stops your potential because you're stuck in a mindset that you probably, you know, stemmed from childhood or stemmed from a certain time of your life where you got very traumatized by something, and it kind of arrested your maturity, your ability to grow, because you got stuck in the trauma of it. And you might have did what I did and blamed yourself, blamed the wrong person, you know, had the wrong understanding through it all. And so that's, you know, stopped you from maturing from it and evolving from it. Okay, but if you don't outgrow this version of you. It will arrest or kill your potential. And it could also create disease in your physical body. Because even though your physical body still grows, if your mental and your emotional and your spiritual is off, it's not going to grow in the most healthy way. You know, it can grow disease within it, you know? And so, yeah, we gotta look into this. He says that failure is not the greatest tragedy of man. Refusing to evolve is. Now that's pretty deep, because again, like I said, if you're not really understanding this and you're refusing to evolve from your traumas, from your, you know, what Joyce Meyer would say, stinking thinking, it can rob you of that life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity. And it can also, you know, bring upon a lot of lack, disease, and poverty, struggles, pain, suffering. And that's just not, I don't think that isn't what we were created to live. We weren't created to live like that. We were created to enjoy life, to enjoy this experience. But again, we have to evolve within it. Just like butterflies have to go in that cocoon to get those wings, and then they're liberated and they get to fly around. Well, human beings, in order to get the shackles of the psychological shackles of poverty, of enslavement, really, we have to evolve, and we have to know thyself, and we have to learn how to take care of thyself and prosper within the character, the best character of ourselves, you know, so that we can get wings and fly and be liberated, you know, right here on earth, metaphorically speaking, but you know what I mean? Okay, so tolerance for settling, being almost who you're supposed to be, not being really what God intended you to be, which is what I believe is back into the image that we were created in, the divine love. His comfort with being better than average, yet miles from exceptional. Yes, when you fall into this tolerance for settling, comfort with being just a little better than average, you're not growing, you're not evolving, you're staying in an arrested state of development. You really are. So it will stop you from achieving your greatest potential. It will stop you from having true success in life. And of course, you're not going to be able to claim that life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity that God intends for you to have, all of us to have. It's your birthright. Come on now, let's get it. Okay. Napoleon Hill says, growth is not a matter of luck. It is not an accident. It is a duty. And it doesn't happen when it's convenient. It happens when it is demanded. Wow. See, that's that little bit of harshness. It's your duty. Yeah, your duty, like to serve your country, to serve your God, to serve your Creator. It is your duty to evolve. It's not luck, and it's not by accident. And it doesn't happen when it's convenient. It happens when it's demanded. And I think he says that because we are going through evolution every day of our life. You know, people will say that life is teaching us lessons, and we have to learn from those lessons, and we have to grow from those lessons. And that's true. And sometimes when you just don't learn from the lesson, maybe because you might be stuck in a bad way of thinking, like how I was, where I thought it was all my fault. It was hard for me to grow without knowing both sides of the story. You know, only knowing one side, which is my side, which wasn't the full truth, because I wasn't giving myself any credit for any good points that I had. It was keeping me in the dark about who I truly was, and it was keeping me stuck. and not being able to grow. So that's why it's very important for you to know who you truly are, the good and the bad. You know, don't not reflect to see the bad in you, and don't just harp on the bad in you as a victim and not see the good in you. Either way, it's not going to do that evolving. You have to look at the whole you. Well, Napoleon Hill goes on and says, you must force yourself to outgrow the old version of yourself, who you've been, the one that was built in survival. It was shaped by fears that were tolerated by your past, but can't be carried into your future. You have to lay down that version of yourself. It's like a burden self. If you're trying to go into a life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity, you can't go there with a mindset of a person of lack, disease, and poverty. It just won't happen, because you need the feeling, the belief, the faith, the vision in order to make the creation and the manifestation appear in your life. And if you're believing and envisioning and thinking something else, it's not going to connect. And so it won't manifest for you. So he says, it's not enough to dream of a better life. You must become the person capable of living it. You can dream about driving a brand new car, but you have to have a driver's license in order to do it, correct? And if you don't know how to drive, then what's the point of dreaming of you driving if you don't know how to drive? You have to learn how to drive. Okay, and this is another thing. He says, it's not enough to dream of a better life. You must become the person capable of living it. And that becoming is violent warfare. It requires sacrifice. It requires discomfort. It requires daily war with the parts of you that crave ease over excellence. The person you've been is not the person who will take you where you're going. The old version is, but again, that's true, but it doesn't have to be violent and warfare. You can do it through a intentional healing of self-love. You really can. But let me go on. He says the old version is complacent, uncertain, distracted, broken down, his excuses exposed, his story rewritten, his habits sorry about that. Yeah, he's saying that your old version is complacent, uncertain, and distracted. And what needs to happen is the excuses that you're telling yourself must be exposed. The story that you're saying to yourself must be rewritten, and the toxic habits must be dismantled. Do you want a new life? Then let go of the identity that is addicted to the old one. The identity, isn't that something? Because, in other words, you have to outgrow or evolve the ego. This transformation will not feel like progress. It will feel like pain. But do not fear that pain. That pain is the sound of your limitations being shouted. It is the scream of your old self resisting extinction. Let it scream, let it burn, let it go, because your higher self is waiting, watching, and ready to emerge. Like a phoenix from the ashes. The moment you stop coddling the weaker version of you and learn how to, he says the higher self is waiting, watching, and ready to emerge. The moment you stop coddling the weaker version of you. I say you have to learn how to self-soothe in a healthy manner. The old version wakes up late. The new you dominates mornings. The old version avoids responsibility. The new you seeks responsibility out. The old you escapes through distraction. The new you pursues discipline with obsession. You'll never reach your potential while dragging around the corpse of your past identity. You must bury him, not once, but daily, according to Napoleon Hill. Every time you wake up and choose intention over impulse, every time you move when you don't feel like it, every time you do the work without applause, growth is not found in comfort. Growth is not found in motivation. Growth is found in the resistance, in the friction between who you are and who you are becoming. And I say knowledge is power, so that the less friction and more understanding. But Napoleon Hill goes on and says, stop asking for easy. Easy will betray you. Easy is the comfort food of failure. Instead, ask for the truth. Ask for a challenge. Ask for the pressure that forges character. You know, you don't really have to ask for that, because that is what happens. That is what's going to happen to you naturally. You know, when I say that about the life lessons, that's what the life lessons are all about. They are bringing pressure to you to forge your character, your true self, the one created in the image of God, the diamond, to come out. If you listen and grow from your mistakes or the lessons that are being taught to you. Napoleon Hill goes on and says, what many people don't understand or will never understand is that your future self is the one who has the power, peace, and purpose. He is already inside you, but he is trapped under the weight of your current habits. He is suffocating beneath your excuses. He is screaming behind your distractions, and only you can set him free. Not with words, not with dreams, but with daily disciplined actions. You cannot rise while remaining loyal to who you've been. That loyalty must be broken. That version of you, that one who settles, who hides, who hesitates, he must be betrayed. I say evolve. But Napoleon Hill says, yes, betrayed, because that version of you has betrayed your potential long enough. And I say that it arrested your potential. It did not betray it. If you want to rise, you must declare war. I say you must love. But this is what he's saying, and he's right. You know, and in those days, it really made sense, the days of war. So yeah, if you want to rise, you must declare war on your lower nature. You must make old habits or toxic habits uncomfortable, old excuses unacceptable, your old patterns unbearable. Stop trying to improve that old version of yourself. He's not worth saving. He was never designed for the heights you're about to reach. I disagree with that, because without the old version, without you making the mistakes, you wouldn't be able to learn from them. You wouldn't be able to evolve. You need that older version of yourself to evolve from. You know, and that older version of yourself is also the younger version of yourself. When you first started to dream and you first, you know, remember, did you ever say that to yourself? Oh, when I grow up, I want to be, you know, you had dreams inside of you. You had natural, you know, likenesses, the things that you love to do, you know, that you have to connect to again. It's about healing that old version of yourself and evolving it, not killing it. We're not going to kill anything about us. We're going to love and evolve who we are into what we are and a knowing of it. Well, that's what we're going to do here at Self-Love Synergy. So Also says, you must replace him not with luck, not with hope, but with brutal, disciplined, intentional growth. Ooh, again, that sounds so harsh. Brutal, disciplined, intentional growth. Sounds like the army, doesn't it? No, I say you have to replace him with unconditional love, with intention and purpose. The healing journey, the self-love healing journey. You could do it through that. You don't have to be hard on yourself. You can mature yourself, but you could be soft and kind and compassionate and loving on yourself as you do it, for sure. Says, Napoleon Hill says, I tell you this not to inspire you. I tell you this because it is required, because mediocrity has a gravity. And if you don't push against it with everything you've got, it will pull you back. Understand this. Change will cost you your comfort, your pride, your laziness. But staying the same will cost you everything. Your purpose, your peace, your potential. So stop waiting for the right moment. It doesn't exist. The only right time is the one you decide. Decide now that you're done negotiating with your limitations. Decide now that your old self no longer gets a vote. Decide now your life will not be dictated by what you feel, but by what you decide. Because growth does not care how you feel. It responds to only one thing, action. But I gotta, that's what is true in those days. I mean, that's true. But now that I understand God, there is a divine energy that actually intends for us to have a life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity. So you don't have to work this hard. You don't have to, think on these lines. You can. It'll work for you, but this kind of stuff, this is like tough love, and tough love never worked for me. So yeah, when it says your old self will cost you your purpose, your peace, your potential, well, you don't allow it. See, the new self, or your evolved self, you're going to evolve from survival into sovereignty. And so when you're in sovereignty, you understand that the number one thing is to protect your peace. You understand that you must live with purpose. And you understand that you have potential. If you align yourself in the proper way, and it's about walking in faith. It's about understanding that that if you put certain things in action and you pray on it and you ask for it, or you command it even for it to happen for you, it will happen, as long as your attention, your focus, your drive, and what you're doing, the steps towards it, it has to manifest. So and that is your power. We have manifestation powers. So when you're walking in the way of sovereignty, then you understand these things and you protect these things. So yeah, you don't have to fight a lower self over it. You decide, just like he says, you decide. And he also says that your life will not be dictated by what you feel. See, you decide. You can even decide what you decide to feel. And yeah, it is a little bit, your manifestation is dependent upon what you feel. Because you have to envision it, you have to feel it, you have to know it, and you have to go forward to it and make space for it, and it will appear. So feeling does play a role in it. But he says, he's saying it in a way where your feelings are dictating you and you're not deciding what it is that you're deciding to feel. You know, you're allowing outside circumstances to dictate how you feel. And that's not the way of the sovereign way. That is the survival way. So he says, you will feel tired, keep going. You will feel fear, push forward. You will feel doubt, act anyway. Because the only way to silence fear is to outgrow it. The only way to destroy doubt is to drown it in progress. The only way to kill the old version of you is to starve him of indulgence and feed him discomfort. You see, the old you was created by accident, through habits you didn't choose, beliefs you inherited, pain you never processed. But the new you will be forged by design. And that's true. And that's the thing. You have to heal these things. You have to understand that, yes, you are going to design your life of sovereignty. So you have to create new habits to replace the old toxic habits. You have to create new beliefs and understandings to help evolve old beliefs from childhood. And you have to process the pain of heartbreaks through a full, whole understanding of who you are and who that other person was, to get a right understanding of things. You don't just say, okay, I'm just going to be this new person and I'm not going to think those things and whatever. I'm just going to believe myself to be something brand new. I'm going to have me a brand new ego. No. We're not going to do this through the ego. Not through the immature ego. We're going to do it through the ally, through the evolved ego. So we have to know what we are at all times, which is living one vibrational energy with all and for all. It's divine. Okay. So, but the new you will be forged by design. He will not come from comfort. He will be summoned in discomfort, built in silence, sharpened in solitude, and eventually he will rise, or she will rise. And that's true. It is going to take silence. It's going to take self-reflection. And it usually is summoned by discomfort. You know, you're feeling a pain and you don't want to feel that pain anymore. Well, when you understand, if you can't change the person or situation that you would like to change, the only thing you can do is change yourself. Yeah, it's going to be a little discomforting in the beginning. But again, you can get used to it. And you could do it in a way that is healing and beautiful, in a way that you love, that you're giving yourself love, things that you love. And then eventually it's just going to be a fantastic way of living, you know? And so he says, and eventually he will rise. Not because he was lucky, but because you were willing to do what was hard, willing to be misunderstood, willing to demand more from yourself and anyone else ever did. That is the path of all great men and women. They outgrow their past. They outlast their weaknesses. They outdiscipline their distractions. They shed their skin to reveal something unrecognizable. That is what you are doing now. That is not a reinvention. This is resurrection. And it begins with a decision. I will no longer live in the shell of who I used to be. Because every day that you hesitate, the old you wins. And we don't want the old us to win, because the old us is in survival mode. And that version doesn't understand who and what he or she truly is. And that version can get stuck and arrested, stopped in the life of lack, disease, and poverty, and will not experience the evolution into the life of abundance, well-being, and prosperity. A life of sovereignty. Oh my goodness, I need some water and I don't have it handy. But yeah, so I hope you like my conversation today. I am trying my best. I really am. And I'm nervous about all of this because I'm learning it and I'm going through it myself. You know, I'm not an expert in this. Hopefully that the more that I do change my habits and do more of these videos and start to do different things and become more living on purpose, in my purpose, and growing and making progress, then it'll be a whole lot easier for me to do these videos. But now, please forgive me if I don't come across as professional and as wise as I would like to. But I hope that you're getting what I'm saying. You know, we don't have to give up. We just have to change our mindsets, change how we feel, change our perspective. That's another thing. Well, I'll talk more about that in a different video. I don't really want to keep on with this video. I got this much done, so I hope that you enjoyed the conversation. I hope that it brought something to you and you learned a little something, and you understand that, yeah, maybe we are to evolve. I think that's what happened in the Bible when it came to Moses bringing the people to the promised land. Apparently, only the younger generation made it through there to the promised land. The older generation passed away, they didn't make it. And maybe it was because they weren't able to evolve their ego into the ally. They didn't really get to mature into the understanding that God is living one vibrational energy with all and for all, and God is within us. And it would have been hard in those days to come into that understanding, because I don't know if they, at the times of the biblical times, if they had any understanding of energy. See, we have that understanding, so we can use the term energy and we can get into an understanding of things, especially because we can look at our history and know of all the wars and, which is better, the wars or the peace and negotiation and trying to grow from each other and sharing, But yeah, anyway. But yeah, that's all that I have for you tonight. And again, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation and you learned something and you come back for more. Okay? All right. So you have an incredible night. Because guess what? If you have an incredible night, guess what? I'm going to have one too.